the station where our veterans' voices are heard, MBR Talk.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Welcome, Quack.
Program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Welcome to Freedom Chat, where real Americans speak their minds. And no topic is off limits. No scripts, no judgment, just honest conversation, raw, unfiltered, and free. If you're ready to challenge the narrative and celebrate true freedom, you're in the right place. This is Freedom Chat.
Good morning.
Morning.
All right. So we talk about the hard conversations on this show, and I know that Dennis's brother is doing some work, so he's going to be muted until I need him to come on and talk. So last week was the 24th anniversary of 9/11, but wouldn't you know it, society has a way of throwing huge curveballs and creating a new narrative. And on the 10th of September, a man that I have been following for at least 5 years, Dennis has probably been following him for at least 5 years. Dennis, thumbs up if that's about right. Named Charlie Kirk. Now, Charlie Kirk has been called a political activist. Charlie Kirk was no political activist. Charlie Kirk was an organizer. Charlie Kirk was a speaker. Charlie Kirk was a debater. And this man was really good at what he did. Now, I'm going to start this show by reading a post of a very good friend of mine. Her name is Corey Kennedy. And what she posted, and I'm hoping, Mom, you can hear me now, but I'm going to kill your mute while I read this post from my friend Corey Kennedy, because I think it speaks to a lot of where we are in our world today. So I'm going to mute you, Mom, and then I'm going to let you come back on, all right? Not sure if Mom can even hear us because she's got technical difficulties on her end. Not the first time, won't be the last time. God knows I've had to cancel a couple of shows for exactly that reason. So, all right, Corey Kennedy.
I think I got my noise situation figured out.
Nice. All right. So, Corey Kennedy, it has taken me a minute to put my thoughts into actual words. I changed my public profile picture late last night, as I remember vividly when Charlie Kirk heard that President Donald John Trump had been elected president. I remember thinking about his gigantic contribution, and I was deeply touched by his wife, Miss Erica Kirk's response as she placed the hat on his head. As the days pass, what we've lost becomes increasingly apparent. The weight of Charlie's absence grows heavier, not lighter, as we begin to comprehend the true scope of his contributions to the world. And make no mistake, what we've lost is irreplaceable in the most fundamental sense. Charlie understood something that our culture has forgotten, that free speech isn't merely political position, but the very foundation upon which truth itself rests. Without the ability to speak freely, to engage in genuine dialogue, to wrestle with ideas that challenge our assumptions, we become prisoners of our own ideological limitations. He has championed this principle not because it was convenient, but because he understood its existential importance. But perhaps more crucially, Charlie provided something that young people, particularly young men, desperately need: a vision of what it means to take responsibility for your life and for the lives of those around you. In a culture that tells young men they're toxic simply for existing, Charlie offered them a different path, one of leadership rooted in genuine responsibility in service to something greater than themselves. And for young women, he offered something equally vital: the recognition that they possess inherent worth that cannot be diminished by ideological pressure or cultural manipulation. He encouraged them to see themselves not as victims of circumstance, but as agents of their own destiny. Now his absence calls upon each of us to step up. The sobering truth: no single individual can replace what Charlie brought to the world. The combination of intellectual courage, moral clarity, and genuine care for others that he embodied is rare beyond measure. Perhaps this is where my hopes lie. I responded with, "Can I read this on my podcast tomorrow?" She finished with another post. If each of us millions mourning his loss across the world chooses to improve ourselves, even incrementally, we might collectively approximate the impact he had as an individual. That would be a fitting tribute, not trying to replace the irreplaceable, but allowing his example to elevate all of us all towards something better than we were before. And I am, or at least will try to be, my hardest to be Charlie Kirk. So I asked her if I could read this on the podcast, and she said yes, I would be honored. Dennis, I want you to kind of talk about how Charlie affected you, and not just talk about what you thought of the guy. All right, and then I'm going to ask Mom, because I don't know that Mom knew him as well as you and I did. I don't know that she followed him as closely as you and I did, but I want your take on this, and I'm going to mute out.
Well, I tell you what, I was listening to an interview that was being done by Mark Levin, I think back in 2000, I can't remember, 2020. But, I was sitting here listening to him, and the guy was, first and foremost, just probably the smartest man in my generation, like that I've ever heard speak. For being as young as he was, the guy, you could just tell with his words, he was brilliant. But he was also down to earth, in such a way that he could reach out, he could reach the young people, as he obviously did, and his faith, obviously, in God was first and foremost. His love of his family was also right there at the top for him, and he was political, but not in a sense of, hard right or whatever. It was more like for the love of his brothers and sisters, and in the common sense realm of everything that's been going on. He just had this way about him that could touch everybody, everybody that wanted to listen, and even those that didn't want to listen. He had a way of opening their eyes to things that they never saw.
Right. Mom, what do you think? Mom, what's your opinion on Charlie?
I didn't, when I started seeing his reels and those sorts of things, I was amazed that a person of his age had that kind of command of himself and was able to react and act with dignity and kindness to the attacks that were being verbally made against him and his beliefs at the college campuses that he went to. And I totally, the bravery it takes to go and stand or sit at a booth when you know that 95% of those people that are there are going to want to make you look like an idiot, is
right.
It's the kind of a thing that the commander at Bastogne said to the Germans: nuts.
Nuts.
That's all. It takes that kind of courage.
It wasn't just those who wanted to attack him verbally. It was also those who, if they had an opportunity, would have attacked him physically. The mere fact that he was going in there and look, what he created was duplicated, but not it was duplicated, but it was never improved upon. There's a couple of other people who go out there and they set up these tents and they have these conversations, and they're hard conversations, and the way they were attacked was very similar to the way Charlie was attacked. Well, the difference that I notice is Charlie never responded with anger or hatred or malice. He simply allowed them to, as I would like to say, he would allow them to throw their 2-year-old fit, and then he would carry on from that 2-year-old fit. Because when a 2-year-old throws a fit, what do? We don't play into the fit. We try to correct the behavior of the fit, right? That's how I remember raising my two. My take on Charlie. I have not watched all of his videos, so I will give myself that grace. What I will say about Charlie is every single video I did watch, he did not cower in the face of virtue signaling. He did not get on his heels when someone pushed a narrative that was, let's use an example. There are many, but I'll use this one. Reparations for blacks based on slavery in the United States. This was a man who said, no, we don't, because I'm white, a black person needs to get money from me, from my taxes, because of what happened 150 years ago. When the blacks were freed 150 years ago, if they were going to make right decisions and fight through the challenges, then they would become greater. And what Charlie was saying was, today's black person has no right to money from atrocities from things that happened in the past, because it's been 150 years. And what he was saying again and again and again is, if you're a black person, you have the same opportunities as I do as a white person. So you don't deserve to get anything outside of the right to do what you do. And he never wavered on that. He didn't say black were less than. He said blacks were equal to. And if they pushed themselves and made right decisions, they would be greater than. Now, I don't know how anybody else thinks about that. I know how I think about that. I know how I feel about that. I feel that is the right message. That is the right. We, as American citizens, here's the bottom line. If you are an American and your name is Dennis Corbin, you have the same opportunity to buy yourself a trucking company and take that risk. And if that risk pans out successful, you're a wealthy and very well off man. But it's because you took that risk. And if you fell short, you fell short. But in this country, you have the opportunity to fall short and then rise back up. If my friend at work, Julian, big old black dude, if he had decided that he wanted to set up a limousine company, this country affords him that opportunity because he's an American, because that's this country's mantra: life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. Those were the messages that I got out of Charlie Kirk.
Well, and with any risk comes failure.
Right.
That's a given.
Of failure, right?
There's no other way around it. There's no other way to say it.
That's 100% correct. And that was what I heard out of him. I also heard out of him, not with an empathetic voice, but with a sympathetic voice, that my belief will not allow me, my faith will not allow me to placate what you think you identify as. He never did it in a disrespectful manner. He never responded to disrespect with disrespect. Never. Not once did you see him do that. So when we hear and see, and we're going to get into a lot of this after our break, which is right now, unfortunately. But we're going to go back to when this started, back to when this vitriol started, back to who and what is responsible for what happened on the 10th of September, 2025. So we'll be right back. And you guys, you already know what I'm going to play because we still got to have some humor. So
Here it
we go.
comes.
Those are cool tats, man.
Oh, for real. Thank you, bro. You see the Cobra?
And what is this one?
Oh, this?
Uh-huh.
That's my credo. No regrets.
You have no regrets?
Dad?
Nope.
Like not even a single letter?
No way. Not me.
Well, I love him. I think he's great.
Okay.
I think he's a real winner, Casey. If I were you, I wouldn't use protection.
That's my credo.
That's my credo. Nope, not one.
Not a single letter.
I wouldn't use protection.
Oh my goodness.
So for those of you who are watching or aren't watching, here's where this started. This started on September 1st, 2022. Now, I'm not going to say that this was an exact start because I think that the underlying issues at hand had been going on since the president came down the escalator in April of 2014, 2015, 2014. But President Joe Biden did a speech on September 1st, 2022. Now, I'm going to give you guys the backdrop. I know that most people have watched it. He did it at Liberty Hall where the Declaration of Independence was signed. He did it behind a red backdrop behind him with two Marines standing at the doorway of Liberty Hall. So there's a huge visual going on here, okay? This is the point where I tell everybody, read the speech. Don't listen to the speech. Read the speech. And the reason that I'm telling you to actually look it up, it's actually on the White House website, believe it or not. BidenWhiteHouse.archives.gov. There's the link. In fact, I will copy it and put it right on the post so that y'all can read it to your heart's content. The reason I say read it instead of listening to it is because your brain gets the opportunity to digest it. And because your brain gets the opportunity to digest it, you start to understand the ramifications of it. I'm not going to go through the beginning parts of the speech because he talks about what America made great. He talked about we the people. This is where it comes to. I stand here tonight. Equality, and democracy are under assault. So tonight I've come to this place where it all began to speak as plainly as I can to the nation about the threats we face, about the power we have in our own hands to meet these threats, and about the incredible future that lies in front of us if we choose it. And then he went into who is the problem of the country. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundation of our republic. I want to be very clear up front. Not every Republican, not even the majority, are MAGA Republicans. Not every Republicans embrace their extreme ideology. I'm having a hard time reading this because this was the president of the United States. And he was calling a group of fellow Americans a threat. The last time anything like this happened, we had a civil war. And over 1 million men died. And a few 100,000 women died as a result. And the President of the United States, before he was the President of the United States, a man named Abraham Lincoln talked about a house divided cannot stand. And this man here, the President of the United States, just told the American people that it's okay to target red hats with Make America Great on it again. This man, the President of the United States, just told on that day that if a person voted for Donald Trump, that person could be assaulted and it would be okay. And he didn't have to come out and say, you can do that. Do not kid yourself. He didn't have to say, you can go out. Those words right there started the ball rolling to where we are now. Literally, this is where we are now.
You know what kills me, Mark?
Yeah.
The word MAGA. Okay. It's not, it's an idea. It's not a thing. It's not an animate object. It's not a human being. It's nothing but an idea. Right. And the way they throw that word around just drives me nuts. Like we're some kind of three-horned purple people eater.
Yeah. And
you know.
So continuing on, there is no question that the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. And that is a threat to this country. But I'm an American president. And see, this is where I start really losing my brain, because you can't say you're an American president and call out a group of people as being inherently threatening to America. You can't. I mean, it doesn't work that way. And here, in my view, is what is true. MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution. They do not believe in the rule of law. They do not recognize the will of the people. They refuse to accept the results of a free election. And they're working right now, as I speak, in state after state to give power to decide elections in America to partisans and cronies. Okay. MAGA forces are determined to take this country backwards. Backwards to an America where there is no right to choose, no right of privacy, no right to contraception, and no right to marry who you love. So, and I'm not going to read all of it. I'm reading the key points of what he was talking about. Now, let's fast forward through that speech, okay? The Department of Justice under Joe Biden targeted Turning Point USA. They were trying to build a case against Charlie Kirk and TP USA to throw them into prison. At any time did Charlie Kirk and the people from TP USA talk about hurting other individuals. I've been through enough of his videos. The man never once talked about hurting and damaging other people. He talked about the Bible and how the Bible reads it. But he was keen on the ability to say, this is biblical, this is today. And for a president of the United States to sit there and without saying it's okay to attack a group of Americans, but you can attack a group of Americans, is insane. It is utterly insane that is what we did. And then the mainstream media, because I know Fox News, because my mom and I used to watch the speech as it happened, and Mom, I was in the kitchen behind you, and I was mad by the time I was done with that. And Mom talked to me this morning when I brought her some groceries. When you saw President Biden come down that aisleway with that red backdrop and the two Marines, she literally told me, I wanted to get up and walk away because it didn't elicit pride. It elicited anger and fear. He basically told you that if you didn't agree with the way he thought and you didn't agree with the way the Democrat Party was thinking, then you were going to become a target. You were going to have a target on your back. And then he proved it when the FBI arrested fathers and arrested church goers for defending their children from ideologies that are inherently dangerous. And if y'all want to know exactly how dangerous, well, I don't know. Go back and watch the video. Well, no, don't go back and watch the video because it's disgusting. But just look at what happened on the 10th of September, which was Wednesday, the day before the 11th of September, 24 years ago, what happened that day.
Well, Mark, don't forget all the people that followed him right after that happened. Maxine Waters, all those people that are in high up positions, in a position to be able to speak and be heard, are doing the same thing.
Right. You want to chime in?
Well, when I saw that backdrop against that he was standing against, all I could think of was, until this moment, I didn't believe in demons, but I do now.
Right.
Because it was demonic. It was totally out of the realm of a science fiction or a horror film show backdrop.
And
That's my
here's
opinion.
The thing. Here's the thing about all of it, is that on that backdrop, it was so inappropriate where it was. Pull it back, Mom. Dennis, pull it back. Dennis, pull it back. There you go. Yeah, you can see it. It's one of the most disgusting visuals I have ever had to endure in front of a building that is steeped in American liberty. So let's talk about what it did, because it took a while to get to where we are today. Assaults would happen, and if they happened on people that were of conservative nature, they were ignored. If a group of kids that were screwing around in a car just happened to deface, if you want to call it defacing, the painting of a LGBTQ, whatever you want to call it, pride flag, they were arrested for hate crime. A father in Virginia was basically told to shut up because his daughter was raped by a trans male who subsequently went and did it 2 more times. But hey, the dad's being intolerant. I'll tell you what, if a trans person did that to my daughter, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Mom, I got to tell you, I don't know. I know it would be enraging, and it is enraging beyond belief.
I think we should stop with. I have a bad thing about calling them trans people. First of all, they are Americans, and they are either gay or lesbian, but they are definitely not trans anything. They're still what they were before, just wearing a dress or wearing men's clothes or having surgery.
Okay,
and if they don't like it, what I say,
Mom,
they can tell me to my face.
And Mom, that's one of the things that Charlie talked about, was your XY chromosomes are not changeable. As no matter how bad you want it to be, you just because you're identifying, and this is what he did as a way to support his argument. If someone says, well, they identify as that, so he turned around and he says, well, I identify as a beaver. Well, if that's how you identify, well, okay, how about I identify as a black man? Well, you can't do that. Why can't I do that? You're telling them they can identify as whatever they want to identify. I'm telling you I identify as a black man. No, you can't. Why? Because you're white. Oh, so your argument loses all of its energy because you're refusing to acknowledge just how upside down your argument actually is. And that was what he did. He wasn't, and he did it in the most kind way that you can. He didn't tell them they were stupid. He didn't tell them they were unintelligent. He didn't tell them they were crazy. He told them the truth. And the truth is, when your mom and your dad had sex, because that's how you procreate, unless you're using test tubes or whatever, the chromosomes of the male sexual reproduction cells and the woman's reproductive eggs came together and went, and then from that point forward, your sex, unless you are a hermaphrodite, which means you have X, Y, and Z chromosomes, began to grow you into what you became. So this isn't about hurting people's feelings, and this isn't about telling people that they don't. Look, if you want to pretend, and that's what it is, or if you legitimately have what is called gender dysphoria, that's okay. Get help. And that was all he was saying. He actually came across a young trans individual, a young person who was fighting gender dysphoria and had been on puberty blockers from age 11. And what that person told him is that he was confused and didn't know where he stood. And what Charlie told him was, I'm not going to tell you what to do because it's your life. You're an adult. You can make those decisions. I would pray. And then he immediately said, I don't know what you believe, but this is what I believe. And then he said, if you get off of them because you've decided that you are willing to accept what you were born as, what God created you to be, and God is not fallible, then I hope that everything works for you. And that person literally looked at him and said, thank you. Because he treated that person with human respect and dignity. Now, the other side, and we're going to get into this after this next break, does not treat us with respect and dignity. And we're going to get into that. But this is just a small picture of what the other side really feels about us. So we're going to go on to the next one, and you guys will laugh at it too because it's fun.
What happened to you? Ruben, I'm in a situation here. We have to leave now. Well, no, can we stay a couple more minutes? But dude, no, this is serious. I just farted. I don't know what that means. I tried to fart and a little shit came out. I just shorted. All right, now let's go.
There's a car behind us. Oh my
Man, I gotta tell H Train to put some more of those on because those are so, because you know what we talk about is pretty freaking serious, and it's always good to get a little bit of humor thrown into it. So
very good.
Let's talk about okay, so first of all, I'm gonna ask Dennis, do you know any people that are suffering from gender dysphoria? Have you ever met anybody?
I actually have. I worked with a young lady who liked to be known as Thomas.
Okay.
But like she had she had all the characteristics physically, and it was self-transformed, of course, that mainly looked like a guy and wanted to be referred to as Thomas at work. And I knew it, but I still tried to, and it didn't bother me one way or the other, really. I befriended this person and even gave her several rides home from work and that kind of thing. And she talked about things, not in depth, but you know, different things. And it wasn't it was, I don't know, it was hard to explain, just from knowing them personally, as opposed to seeing what you see on TV on the regular nowadays.
Right.
But I had no problems with this person. I mean, it was still a human being.
Right. Mom, do you know anyone's personally outside of the ones that I've told you about?
Oh, you must be talking about Peggy Sue Woody.
Yeah.
I worked with a gentleman. We'll go with gentleman. Woody Anderson for many, many years. And he had many emotional problems over the years about various things. He liked to sue people at the drop of a hat. You know, that it's just his personality. And I was one of the few people probably that he actually talked to more. And why, I'm not sure. Probably because I just ignored most of what he said and just listened to him.
Okay.
Well, and later he decided that his life wasn't doing what his life was. Now, he's an older man. He's just not, he's a little younger than I am. And a few years ago, he decided that he should be a she because he wasn't happy as a man, so he must be happier as a she. And I've talked to him since, and as far as I can tell, other than the fact that he made a damn good-looking woman after much, much surgery, which is fine. You know, Peggy Sue's just fine.
He's still
but
miserable.
The personality is exactly the same.
Okay. So
it did not change one iota.
and I've mentioned my daughter's friend. I've mentioned my own coworker, and I've mentioned Blair White, who's real name is I think his real name is Robert. Of the three that I know, the two that I'm in constant contact with, which is Marina's friend and my coworker, I've had conversations with both of them, and I would like to think that in some way I tapped into Charlie and what Charlie was trying to do. I told both of them, I'm not going to refer to you as a they or a them ever. And that's because I do not acknowledge a plural pronoun, because you're not a multiple personality. You don't have schizophrenia, and you don't have, you're not the three faces of Eve, so to speak. Mom, you know that. And Dennis, you know that reference also, right? The three faces. Of
course.
So because you don't have that, I can't legitimately call you a they or a them. And you can't tell me, well, no, it's because I'm non-binary. No, you're asking me to reference you as a multiple personality. I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. As far as being what you are identifying as, I don't know what to call you, so I'm going to call you something different. I'm not doing it out of malice. I'm not doing it out of hate. I'm doing it because I don't know what to say, because as much as you're trying to get my brain to compute, every time you do, I get the blue screen of death. Now, those of you who know our early computer days, you know what the blue screen of death was. It was the computer just had too much information that didn't make sense to it, and it just went. And I kind of explained it to him like that. I says, that's why I call you what I call you, and I made sure that it was understood. I'm not calling you this because I hate you. I'm not calling you this because I'm disgusted. I am none of those things. In fact, I like the one I like a lot. Very funny person, wants to be known as a boy and has a girlfriend. And I'm like, you're gay. And it's okay to be gay. But you're not a guy. You don't have guy parts. You don't have the XY chromosome. Just because you feel more masculine doesn't mean anything. It's not a bad thing if you are gay and a man and you feel more effeminate. That doesn't mean that you're a woman trapped in a man's body. That means that that's what you are. Anything outside of that is either a psychological disorder or a what's the word I'm looking for, Mom? Psychological disorder or fantasy. Okay?
Yeah.
That isn't being mean to someone. That is telling someone the truth. Now, let's do a deep dive into the other side, because I've just shown from Dennis to my mom, Phyllis, and to myself how rational people who, oh, by the way, Charlie Kirk was a rational person, acted and spoke. Let's talk about the other side, and we're going to talk about the consequences of the other side. Here's one, and it was a video. These evil scumbags, they want us all dead. Does that sound remotely rational to either one of you?
No.
Yeah,
Okay, so we've now established what is rational and what is not, right?
right.
This is what we got from September 11th to even today. And then we're going to talk about the response of it. And we're going to go into all of this, because here's the thing. Charlie Kirk dies, and MSNBC has their political commentator come right out, and he got fired because a lot of them are starting to get fired. It's turning into, they have canceled us for so long on one level or another, sometimes very directly, sometimes not, but they have played the cancellation game for so long. Now they're having to reap what they sowed, because people who watched that man die in front of his two children, and me having two children, boy, that hit hard. And to listen to Erica Kirk speak, if they think for 2 seconds that they did anything significant, you know what they did? They unleashed the hounds. Because they're losing their jobs now because they couldn't help themselves. They spoke out of turn. They spoke in the most disgusting way possible. They glorified the murder of another human being. I don't care what his political affiliation is. Hey, newsflash, for anybody who's watching, I don't care what your political affiliation is. He didn't care what your sexual orientation was. I don't care what your sexual orientation is. He didn't care what you identified as. I don't care what you identify as. But if I see you and you tell me I have to, or else, let me tell you something, folks, that isn't identifying, that's coercion. And they've been doing it they've been doing it longer than 2015. So now the shoe is on the other foot, because they killed a man in cold blood. They killed him publicly while he was debating. Hey, you want to know what he was about ready to debate? Violence in the trans community.
Yep.
The mass shooters. Because the guy that was going to debate him was going to tell him that trans are not as violent as he thinks they are.
Ironically.
Isn't that the most stunning turn of events that you've ever seen or ever heard? The kid is beside himself today too. If you have watched the video of him talking about what happened, he said, I don't know what to do with myself now. I didn't like Charlie Kirk. I didn't agree with Charlie Kirk. But holy crap.
I saw that.
Charlie Kirk wasn't wrong. That's the thing. Because Charlie Kirk is trying to explain to you, the gender dysphoria doesn't need to be placated. It needs to be treated. You can't give people antipsychotic drugs when they're already unstable, because it makes them more unstable. It doesn't have the effect that you think it's supposed to have. Here's a perfect personal example. I was on a drug called gabapentin. Gabapentin is a drug that does multiple things accordingly. But what it was supposed to do for me was settle my restless legs. And it wasn't my restless legs. It was my entire body. My entire body, when I sleep, flops and twitches and does all kinds of crazy things. They kept amping up the medication, and I quit taking it one prescription lower than their highest prescription. It had gotten so violent and so bad for me that I couldn't sleep. And it was supposed to help me sleep. Now take that concept and apply it to some of these antipsychotic drugs that they're putting on these kids, and many of them going through puberty. You're already hormone balanced. How are you expected to get better when you're already a mess? For that side, and let's not even get into the mainstream media, because they're worse because they know what they're doing. Mom, go ahead. Okay, Mom, Dennis, I'm going to step away. I'm going to give you guys.
Okay. Something that I point out to, which should be obvious to everybody, is the amount of money that the doctors and the hospitals and the social workers are all going to reap for years and years and years off of these kids that they have talked into the drugs and the surgeries. Because in order to stay that way, sad to say, they will have to have all that stuff, and it just costs money. Right. So I say, follow the money. See who's pushing it.
Right. Yeah, that's something that they have to take their whole lives, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the minute you stop taking the drugs, you got a problem.
Yeah.
Because the drugs are what keep you whatever. I mean, if it's a hormone, if you stop taking it, they can, this is going to be a problem. That's all. And if you've had surgery and parts taken or what have you, you're likely going to be in and out of surgery forever, one sort or another.
So if you're taking,
I just think that people have missed the point of take a good look at who's reaping the money off of this. Because you can bet there's somebody reaping a lot of money.
So if you're a man taking female hormones, in order to maintain that illusion, you have to continue those hormones for the rest of your life.
You have to take them the rest of your life because your body will not produce that hormone. Right. It has to be given to you. And the same thing with a woman. If she decides that she's a man and she wants to, whatever she thinks the testosterone is going to do for her, I don't know, make her stronger. Let's go with that. But the minute she stops taking it, there's going to be a reaction, and I don't know what the reactions are going to be, but they're likely, a lot of them will be psychological because it messes up with the thyroid and it messes up with the other hormone producing organs in your body.
Produces a chemical imbalance.
So let's talk about some of these people who are of influence. I know that Mom probably has never heard of a guy named Brian Krasenstein. He has a brother. They're both very anti-Trump. They're very, very much on the extreme left. This person made a comment. I don't remember what the date was that he put a comment on it. If you're a man who has a relationship with a trans woman, you are in a heterosexual woman or relationship because she is a woman and you are a man. Okay, that's what we're dealing with as far as how crazy these people are, because a person that has some influence in the social world or computer world are telling you, hey, there's nothing abnormal about this. Okay, there's a guy named Tim Pool, who I follow, who is of the conservative world, comes right out and says, no, everyone knows that if you're a dude and you give oral sex to another guy, you're gay or you're bisexual. It's one of the two. The problem with that is that this guy does this all the time. I partially think that they do this just to stir up the pot and just to be crap stirrers. Okay. The people who came out and celebrated his death are being fired. Why are they being fired? Well, a lot of them are being fired because there are other people who are tracking them and collecting their information and then collecting all of their profiles and sending all of this not only to their employers, but sending it to other people who are disgusted by it. And then those people are sending it to employers. Because the people on our side of the fence, which I don't call our side of the fence conservative, I call us normal thinking, rational thinking individuals.
Common sense.
I did not watch that assassination. I did not watch it. And for those of you who say I should watch it, go pack sand. I'm not watching it. I don't want to watch it. I'm already disgusted enough that it happened.
I saw it, Mark.
Okay. John F. Kennedy's assassination. We watch it because it's been such a long time. Hey, Martin Luther King was killed. None of that was videoed. Malcolm X was murdered. Nobody videotaped that, and it still has the same lasting effect. But what happened there on that day is already disgusting enough. And Dennis, believe me, man, I do not envy you. I don't want to.
Yeah, you don't want to watch it.
I don't have an interest in it.
I didn't do it on purpose. I accidentally ran across it.
Right, and then when you watch, it's like, oh my God. Did I just see what I just see what I thought I saw?
Yep.
Yeah, you did.
When I seen it, he was still in the hospital. They were still saying he was in critical condition. This is before he was pronounced dead. Yeah. But when I saw it, I knew immediately he wasn't going to make it. Yeah. Now,
I'm reading a post from a person named I don't know who she is, but she's pretty awesome. She calls her handle is Kathy Talk. She's a Latino or black, not too sure. She's darker color skin, and she's talking literally about these people who either mocked his murder, and we're talking about. Keep in mind, guys, we're not talking about some person who is working as a burger flipper at McDonald's or was working on the taco line at Taco Bell. We are talking about doctors. We're talking about anesthesiologists. We're talking about nurses in ERs. We're talking about educators of every level. And we're talking about high-paying jobs like the communication director for the Carolina Panthers was fired. Yep. Okay? When you have people that are of that stature saying things, especially the ones in the medical community, the Hippocratic Oath is simple. First, do no harm. When you celebrate the intentional harm of another human being and you're in that profession, I no longer trust you to treat me. And I damn sure don't trust you to treat my family. You celebrate the loss of life of another human being in the most horrible way possible. You deserve to be fired. Go ahead, Dennis.
There was actually a colonel in the Army that they just found out too. I can't remember his name.
In the Air Force.
Just saw that.
Now, they can't be discharged, okay? They can be punished through the UCMJ.
All right.
Okay? And they should be. They can be removed from their position of authority, and they should be. Because you
can you be placed with the dishonorable at all?
No.
That's too bad.
But there are repercussions, and those repercussions will be doled out because Pete Hegseth is not who his predecessor was. General West was a shell of a human being.
All right. He was a puppet.
And these nurses, I'll tell you what, some of them are here in Colorado, folks. I'm telling you right now, and I already talked to my daughter about this. If you have a professor and they're saying anything, and this is part of the issue that we have at hand, because we're going to talk a little bit about the indoctrination versus education in our universities, because this kid went to a 4-year university and came out a monster. And not only just a monster, but a victim. He was as much of a victim as a victim to the liberal education system in the higher education industry as Charlie Kirk was, and Charlie Kirk was murdered. But this kid is going to probably get the death penalty, and it's probably going to happen relatively quick. And the professors and the people from Antifa and the people that were around him that were unduly influencing him are going to walk away scot-free. You all understand this. That we're not talking about vigilantism. We're not talking about anything that is like that. But there has to be some semblance of accountability when a professor who knows the ideology is there and doesn't do something to temper it. For the record, my daughter's band, one of my daughter's band directors at the University of Colorado brought a picture of his child and told the band to hug each other a little tighter and love each other accordingly.
Good.
Which is the right message.
Yes.
But this is what you have. And I'm going to ask both of you to chime in. We've only got 4 minutes. When
I got something to read too, Mark, before we leave.
Yeah. I'm going to give it, if you want, we got 4 minutes. I just want to know if you guys agree with me on this. This is how it has become. A professor in a university is subconsciously elevated to a higher position of influence because of their credentials. So it gives them the ability to educate minds that are wanting to learn. But instead of actually educating them, it becomes an indoctrination factory because the student has been told that this person's intelligence and this person's academia credentials, for all intents and purposes, makes his position not, you can't question what they say, is in marked English terms. So these kids start getting this information and start getting this indoctrination the minute they step into college. And if they don't have a foundation like my daughter had, which was you question everything. If something doesn't look right, smell right, or feel right, take a look at the subject, go to DuckDuckGo, not Google, and run a search on DuckDuckGo, not Google. Because DuckDuckGo is not going to use a politically driven algorithm to push the information that you need. What you need are facts. You don't need ideology. You don't need propaganda. And as a student, you should know better. But because they've been indoctrinated into thinking that these, especially the ones that are left-leaning, are infallible in their knowledge and infallible in the ability to push the knowledge, they just start believing it out of hand. Well, you start believing it out of hand, you start seeking groups that feel the same way and believe the same way. Gee, isn't that what we've just watched? The kid was Antifa influenced. And he was influenced because his boyfriend pretends to be a girl, suffers from gender dysphoria, and he got tied into that community because, like my mom said this morning, he was probably gay and couldn't express that because he come from an extremely religious, conservative family. So when he got out away from that influence, he got unduly influenced and brainwashed, and then it tied right in. So this is the real challenge here. Dennis, I'm going to turn it over to you, and then we're going to get off. Mom, your input was outstanding.
The word tolerance gets thrown around a lot, especially nowadays. So the definition is the ability or willingness to tolerate something, in particular, the existence of opinions or behavior that one does not necessarily agree with. So tolerance is a good thing. However, it's only good when it's a two-way street. That's all I'm going to say.
Well said. That is something that we need desperately more of, is the two-way street. So I'm going to close this out with this. Charlie Kirk was a man who exercised the two-way street to utter perfection.
Yep.
Charlie Kirk did not tell you what you wanted to hear. He told you what you needed to hear. There are and were some of the things that he said that I wasn't necessarily in 100% agreements with. But Charlie didn't care about that. Charlie cared about having the open dialogue that our society needs now more than it ever has needed in our existence. And our nation needs it now more than it has ever needed since the Civil War and the events leading up to the Civil War. For those of you who think that what happened to Charlie was justified in any way, shape, or form, I'm not going to tell you to stay off of my threads, because I want you to have a conversation with me. One of the things that my mom and Dennis and I all are desperately trying to get is an open dialogue. We are Charlie Kirk. We are doing and we are acting in the spirit of what TPUSA has been about from day one, which is if we can talk out our differences, maybe, just maybe, we can move forward through our differences. And I honestly, beyond any shadow of a doubt, believe that that is what Charlie was fighting for. He wasn't fighting anti-gay or anti-race or anything. He was trying to get people to open their eyes.
And minds.
And minds. And what happened on Wednesday, as horrible as it was, maybe it provides a foundation for which our society can move forward. That's my take.
Rest in peace, Charlie.
Fair winds and following seas, man. God bless you all. God bless the United States of America. And I'm off to the Aurora Mall to talk to T-Mobile.
Have fun with
Yay!
Okay.
All right, Mom, I'll keep you updated on what's going on there, all right?
Yep, that'd be nice.
Have a good
All
day,
right.
Philip.
Love you all.
Love you too.
And we're out.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.